colossal chamber hummed, a low thrum that vibrated through the very bones of the assembled delegates. Light, filtered through crystalline structures the size of continents, cast long, spectral shadows across the polished obsidian floor. Above, a holographic map of the galactic arms swirled, its myriad stars mirroring the anxious constellations of eyes staring at the central projection. A single word, rendered in the universally understood script of the galactic concordat, pulsed ominously: humanity. Fear, a cold and viscous liquid, clung to the air, thicker than the recycled atmosphere. The Grand Overseer, Xyler of the Krill, a being whose chitinous shell bore the intricate scars of 1,000 diplomatic clashes, cleared his throat, the sound amplified by the cavernous space. His multifaceted eyes, pools of liquid fire, scanned the assembly, each delegate a potential fracture line in the already strained unity. "The reports continue to be ambiguous," Xyler began, his voice a low, gravelly rasp. "Their behavior is illogical, their actions a tapestry woven of contradictions. They submit, they resist, they offer, they demand. They are unpredictable." Around the chamber, a chorus of nervous clicks and rustles echoed his words. The Krill, renowned for their strategic acumen and unwavering pragmatism, were deeply troubled by the emergence of this new species, the humans. They had, after all, been the architects of the recent, brutal, and humiliating enslavement of the Terran system. Across the chamber, seated amongst the representatives of the Cathar, a race of psionic manipulators known for their ruthlessness, Ambassador Vrel, his segmented body subtly twitching, emitted a sound that was less a question and more a challenge. "Unpredictability is a liability, Grand Overseer. We have seen how their defiance has cost us precious resources. Their refusal to surrender willingly, their constant attempts at insubordination, it is an affront to the established order. Do we, or do we not, intend to maintain the Concordat's authority?" His words hung in the air, heavy with the implied threat of unilateral action. The room stirred. The chieftain of the Gralak, a hulking brute of a being whose primary form of communication was brutal displays of strength, rumbled in agreement, a noise that seemed to shake the very foundations of the chamber. Many believed that only an iron fist would pacify these upstarts. Others, however, felt that a more measured approach was needed. Amongst these was Alara, a representative of the ethereal Sylvans, beings of pure energy who possessed a deep understanding of the cosmos and a natural inclination towards diplomacy. She raised a shimmering hand, her voice a gentle chime. "Surely, a new species warrants a period of observation, of understanding. Premature aggression will only solidify their resistance. We must ascertain the source of their peculiarities." "Peculiarities?" Vrel spat the word like a venomous insect. "They are a threat. They have already shown a capacity for technological innovation that surpasses their perceived development curve. Their defiance is not born of ignorance. It is a calculated challenge to our dominance. We must break them before they break us." The air crackled with the unspoken tension that filled the room. The Krill's home world had just been humbled when a fleet of human ships had wiped out the primary naval defense and the Krill High Council. A war was avoided by the intervention of a peace delegation from the Sylvans. They had pleaded for restraint and understanding, but the wounds were still fresh, the insult unbearable. Xyler steepled his multifaceted fingers, considering the factions before him. The Cathar and the Gralak, driven by their ruthless pragmatism, advocated for immediate, decisive action. They saw the humans as a disease to be eradicated, a threat to their established power. The Sylvans, with their long view of galactic history, urged caution, seeking to understand the root of the humans' behavior. He, Xyler, the Grand Overseer, was caught in the middle. His own species had been humiliated by the humans, yet he knew that a hasty decision could ignite a galactic conflagration. He understood that these creatures called humans were, above all, survivors. "We have received a communication," announced a voice from a hovering datasphere unit, its voice cold and monotone. "From the human vessel, the Dawnbreaker." The holographic display shimmered, shifting to reveal a meticulously crafted image of the human vessel. The vessel itself was a marvel of clean lines and efficient design, a stark contrast to the Baroque, often over-engineered, vessels favored by many of the established species. An image, a single, calm figure, appeared on the projection. His skin was pale, his hair a dark curtain against the backdrop of the stars. His eyes, the color of a stormy ocean, were steady, his expression unreadable. "Identify yourselves," the human spoke, his voice clear, devoid of emotion. His words, translated by the universal translator, reverberated in the vast chamber. The room held its breath. The silence was broken only by the hum of the energy conduits. Vrel leaned forward, his segmented eyes narrowed. "They dare to dictate terms?" he hissed. Xyler raised a hand, silencing the objections before they could fully erupt. "Respond," he commanded the datasphere unit. "Identify the Concordat Council." The response was immediate. The image of the human figure remained still, but the voice continued. "We are aware of your authority. We know of your previous interaction. We have come to discuss terms of surrender." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of surprised exclamations. The Grolak grunted in confusion, and the Cathar's ambassador nearly snapped in frustration. The Sylvans, however, remained serene, their luminous bodies emitting a soft, understanding glow. Xyler, for his part, felt a flicker of cautious curiosity. Surrender. After their defiance, their unexpected resistance, it was a perplexing turn of events. "Explain," Xyler said, his voice laced with suspicion. The human's expression did not change. "Our position is unsustainable. The resources required to maintain resistance are prohibitive. We have evaluated the strategic factors. We offer surrender under the following conditions." The projection flickered, revealing a list of demands. The conditions were unexpected. The humans sought no territorial gains, no technological advantages, no preferential treatment. They asked only for the cessation of hostilities, the protection of their homeworld, and the right to self-governance. The council chamber buzzed with renewed discussions, more confused than before. The Grolak saw weakness, the Cathar a cunning deception, but the Sylvans were starting to understand. Their understanding of the flow of emotions allowed them to see the truth. The humans were logical beings. "Why?" demanded Vrel, unable to contain his frustration. "Why this concession?" The human paused for a beat. "Because," his voice resonated, "you do not understand." "Understand what?" Vrel pressed. The human smiled. It was the first time an expression had broken the man's unyielding demeanor. "Why we fought, why we could not stop." The tension in the room seemed to rise to a fever pitch, palpable to the touch. The human paused for a moment and continued. "We are a species that cannot be enslaved. If you want our system, then you must be willing to pay the price. You have seen how much. Your armies, your fleets have tasted our defiance. Our systems are now in disrepair. Our defenses are depleted. The cost of victory has brought our people to their knees. However, the price of the war was everything." "But why not continue the fight?" asked a delegate from a species known for their pacifism. The human sighed. "We had no choice. What you did not see, what you would not understand, is that our people had been building to this moment for generations. Our societies were organized around the idea that we would be the last stand. The idea that everything we had built, everything we had created, would be destroyed. The price of our victory, everything we have built." A heavy silence followed, as the delegates grappled with the implications of the human's words. The Sylvans radiated a gentle sympathy, understanding the sacrifice they were describing. The Cathar hissed, their faces contorted in frustration, for they could not understand the humans' willingness to destroy everything that they had, simply to ensure that another species could not control them. The Grolak grunted, as if a complicated philosophical problem had suddenly hit him like a physical blow. Xyler made a calculated decision. "Grant their demands," he commanded. "We will establish a peace treaty, begin the reparations negotiations." He looked out at the assembly. He saw the doubt, the mistrust, the fear, and the lingering threat of violence. "We will, for now, give the humans what they desire. We can always take it back later." "But, Grand Overseer, surely this is a mistake," Vrel argued. "To allow them to thrive is simply inviting further rebellion. We should crush them now." "Patience, Ambassador," Xyler retorted. "Perhaps it is best to know our enemy. Perhaps their surrender is just the beginning." He turned his gaze back to the projection and the image of the human. He could see in the eyes of the other races a growing understanding of the humans and, as a result, of themselves. Days bled into weeks, and the terms of the peace treaty between the Concordat and humanity were hashed out. The humans, as they had promised, were cooperative, meticulous, and pragmatic. They took no advantage of their position, no more than they had already extracted. They requested only what they deemed essential for the survival of their people. They repaired their own damage without accepting assistance, as if they wanted to prove to the galaxy the truth of what they had said. During the treaty negotiations, teams of Concordat scientists and engineers were allowed to visit Earth. The reports began to flood in. The technology, once thought to be crude and underdeveloped, was discovered to be far more advanced than initial estimates suggested. The humans had achieved warp technology decades ago. They were capable of developing weaponry that the Concordat had only dreamed of. They had simply chosen not to deploy it. Their defense strategy, once considered a haphazard series of desperate gambits, was revealed to be a carefully calculated defense in depth, designed to bleed the attackers dry. Meanwhile, the Sylvans dispatched an embassy to Earth, seeking to understand the humans from a different perspective. They observed their art, their music, their literature. They learned about their history, their philosophy, their culture. They discovered the human fascination with stories. Their own history of storytelling revealed a people fascinated with conflict, destruction, and survival more than they were with comfort, safety, and the good life. The Sylvans sent back their reports to the Concordat Council. Their reports revealed a people driven by a fierce sense of autonomy, a people who valued freedom above all else. They were capable of extraordinary acts of self-sacrifice and were deeply suspicious of external control. They were not, as many had assumed, irrational or chaotic. Instead, they were driven by a complex code of ethics that they called morality and were prepared to die to defend. The ambassador of the Sylvans, her light shimmering in the chamber, summarized their findings to the council. The humans are not what we anticipated. They are, in fact, an experiment. They have learned to work in opposition. They have faced hardships and learned to face them alone. They do not trust, nor do they rely. They do not trust those who seek to rule. They do not trust those who would control them or seek to make them slaves. They seek only to be left alone. The news, although troubling to some, was now familiar. The Cathar still seethed, but could not suggest what could be done. The Gralak still grumbled, but, given their own cultural traditions, understood it. And Xylar, after long deliberation, began to see a greater strategic advantage. One day, in the middle of a treaty negotiation, a senior human diplomat, a woman with piercing blue eyes, addressed the council. She appeared to not have the need of a translator, as she could instantly understand the language spoken. "We have provided all the details that you have sought," she stated. "We have revealed our technology, our strategies, our history. We have even provided access to our homeworld." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. "There is, however, one thing we have not yet revealed, one thing that is fundamental to understanding us, but we feel it is time." She gestured towards a screen, and the image shifted. It displayed not the exterior of a human starship, but its interior, its engineering section. Several human engineers were working on a large, intricate piece of machinery. "What is this?" demanded Vrel, his voice sharp with suspicion. "A prototype," the diplomat answered. "A discovery that will transform the galaxy." The image zoomed in, revealing the complex workings of the machine. It seemed to have no discernible purpose. It featured a series of crystalline structures, energy conduits, and a central core that pulsed with an unknown source of power. "What are its functions?" Xylar asked, his voice filled with a careful curiosity. The human diplomat gave a small smile. "Its functions are manifold, but they all hinge upon one primary function." The diplomat paused again, and for the first time a trace of visible excitement flickered in her eyes. "It is a device capable of altering reality. It can change the laws of physics. It can manipulate the very fabric of spacetime." The chamber gasped, a low chorus of disbelief. The Sylvans, however, seemed to emit a bright glow. They had known. They knew that the humans would surprise them. Vrel, however, was outraged. "That is impossible. We have explored all known technologies. We have no record of anything like this." "Your data is limited," the diplomat responded, with no hint of disrespect. "You have not accounted for the potential of human ingenuity or the capacity to use the unimaginable resources that are available to us." "Explain," Xylar requested. The diplomat gestured to the engineers on the screen. "We have learned that this universe is not all that it appears. We have developed the ability to go beyond time and space. We have learned to manipulate quantum fields, to reshape energy, and to create new realities. We do not have to conquer the stars. We can shape them instead." On the screen, the engineers continued to work, their movements precise and deliberate. Their work was, the diplomat explained, a gateway, a gate to new levels of understanding. The human paused again and then delivered the next stunning revelation. "This is not simply technology. This is our means of survival. This is the only way that humanity can truly be free." Vrel, enraged, stood up. "This is a perversion of the natural order. This is a weapon that can be used to destroy entire worlds." The human diplomat remained calm. "Perhaps, but we have no intention of destroying anything. We are only trying to survive. We are only trying to be free. The Concordat can use it if it so chooses, but we will not. We will not use our powers to enslave. Then why are you showing us this? The Grolak demanded. What do you want? We want you to understand, the diplomat stated. We want you to know who we are. We want you to see what we are capable of. We want you to believe us. We can no longer be controlled. The council chamber sank into silence as the implications of the humans' revelation dawned on them. The humans had not only survived against the odds, but they had also evolved into a threat, so great as to defy even the wildest imagination. The humans had not merely accepted their enslavement, they had accepted that they would be destroyed, and as a consequence, they had transformed themselves into the ultimate power. As the debate continued, another message arrived, interrupting the ongoing discussion. It was a message that no one knew how to interpret, nor from what source it originated. The message was ancient. It was a message transmitted across the galaxy. It was a message that had been broadcast from the heart of the galaxy, the source of creation itself. The message began to repeat itself, a simple phrase repeated again and again. Awake, awake, the time is near. The message sent a chill through the council chamber. The Sylvans began to resonate with the message, their bodies flickering with a newfound energy. The Cathar hissed, sensing that their dominance was coming to an end. The Grolak growled, ready for a fight, and the Krill began to consider what they should do. The human diplomat took control of the projection. We are detecting, she announced, her voice calm, devoid of any emotion, an unknown signal. It originates from the galactic core. The holographic map swirled, focusing on the center of the galaxy. The signal pulsed with a light the color of a supernova. This signal is billions of years old, the diplomat explained. It predates the formation of our species, of yours. It is of a dimension that no one has experienced before. What is it? Demanded Xyler, his multifaceted eyes narrowed with suspicion. We do not know yet, the diplomat admitted. But we are learning. As you have witnessed, we move fast. We have learned to master the power of the universe. We are already preparing to answer. The diplomat's eyes looked into each of the delegates. We can no longer be confined. We have a universe to explore. We have an era to greet. We will reach beyond the stars. The hologram flickered once more, displaying the image of the Dawnbreaker. The vessel, sleek and elegant, emerged from the edge of the screen, heading towards the galactic core. Earth's revenge ignited the skies, the diplomat said, her voice filled with a quiet resolve. And we will now determine the fate of the galaxy. The vessel, with the humans aboard, accelerated into the void. The chamber erupted into chaos. The Cathar, in their fear, called for the destruction of the human vessel, calling for all to see what it was capable of. The Grolak bellowed for war. But the Sylvans, glowing brighter than ever, seemed to be preparing themselves for a journey. The Krill, however, had the best view. They considered the implications of the signal. They considered the implications of the human weapon. They considered the potential threat to the Concordat, a threat far greater than humanity. They, the Krill, knew the humans' capabilities. They alone understood how far their reach had extended. We must act, Xyler declared, his voice cutting through the pandemonium. We must find the source of the signal. We must discover its meaning. We must be prepared. He looked out at the assembly. He could see their fear, their confusion, and their uncertainty. But he could also see in their eyes a glimmer of hope. The humans, against all odds, had survived. Perhaps they could too. And perhaps, against all odds, the galaxy could face this new, great challenge as well.